Greetings, all you maniacs of minds on crimes, and Payday 2 has a lot of weapons in it. Except I don't have every single DLC, but still, there's a lot of weapons in total. But there are some weapons that aren't in the game that I just don't understand why they're not. And today I'm going to be discussing them and also sort of discussing on what the stats I think of them would be. So let's wind back to World War II and talk about some weapons in the historical DLC pack that aren't in the game, and I don't get why. So, the first one is the M3 grease gun, or the M3A1 grease gun. The M3A1 is the more improved version. So the grease gun was basically the replacement for the Thompson submachine gun. The Thompson fired too fast, it was too heavy, it was too complicated, it was too expensive to keep producing. Even when the American government, the American military, all of that, simplified it as much as it could be. But it was still just like, So along came the M3, commonly known as the grease gun because, well, look at it. It looks like a shop tool, like a grease gun. Something that, you use in a shop. So this weapon did a lot of things very well. It was unbelievably cheap to make. It's just basically a few pieces of stamped sheet metal welded together. It's a bit more complicated than that because, of course, there's a moving bolt, there's, the firing pin, everything in a gun. But it is a simple blowback, recoil-operated SMG that has a very low cyclic rate of about 400 rounds a minute, or 350 to 400 rounds a minute. So if you look up videos of this thing firing, it's like a sewing machine. It's not, like the Thompson where it just screams out bullets. This one fires the 45 ACP cartridge, same thing as the Thompson, really slowly. So they further improved it with the M3A1 near the end of the war, and surprisingly, the M3 grease gun was used all the way up to Desert Storm in the 90s. I'm not making this up. Guys in tanks had grease guns. Not every single one of them, but they had grease guns and even welded on, Picatinny's on it for optics. It's pretty funny. This very, very cheap weapon was made only for World War II, but it was still continued. That's a pretty common story, to be honest, with a lot of World War II weapons. Anyway, the grease gun would be a very, very cool weapon in Payday 2 because I can imagine it having, of course, a low rate of fire, being very stable because basically you see people shoot this thing. I've never shot it because I've never shot a gun, but from what people have said, it does not move. The recoil, the way it works, it's steady as a rock because of that super low cyclic rate. So in Payday 2, I could definitely see this weapon having high stability on base. Maybe not the greatest accuracy because apparently the grease gun wasn't the most accurate SMG you could get, but whatever, it was made on the cheap. There was even a suppressed version, briefly used, I think, in Korea and Vietnam, but, whatever. So, the M3A1, I don't know why it isn't in Payday 2 already. It is a very historic, very recognizable American submachine gun that replaced the Thompson, because the Thompson kind of needed to be replaced. Anyway, we're sticking with America and World War II, and now we're going to be talking about something that has a bit more firepower than a grease gun. The Browning automatic rifle. The BAR, the big-ass rifle, aka, what does it shoot? 30-06. Why and how? It's full auto and we don't care. Yes, it is a full auto 30-06, and if that doesn't sound like power to you, I don't know what does. Maybe a full auto 4570 government, which would be absurd. Anyway, the BAR was basically like, it was made in World War I, right? And it was meant for guys to carry it and fire it in a slow full auto to keep people's heads down in trenches. Of course, that didn't work out. But it was the main sort of quote-unquote assault rifle not an assault rifle because it doesn't use an intermediate cartridge. It used a full-blown rifle round, making it a battle rifle. So the Scar H is a battle rifle because it uses 7.62 by 51 NATO. That's a full-blown rifle round. 30-06 is same 7.62, but it's by 63 for the cartridge, so it's a bit bigger. Not by much. Anyway, with all that being said, I seriously don't understand why the BAR isn't in the game, because it's a fucking full auto 30-06. It was made in so many different variations by different people around the world. It's a very recognizable rifle, and it's just fucking cool. It's a full auto 30-06. You'd think, as ridiculous as Payday is, it would have a full auto 30-06. But no, we have the Garand, which is cool, but the BAR is a full auto Garand essentially. Not exactly. Completely different mechanisms. The BAR uses magazines, the Garand uses clips. Anyway, it would just be a very cool rifle. Now, as for the stats, would it be an assault rifle or an LMG? My vote would be an assault rifle, and it would be the slow fire version of it, although maybe there would be a mod for you to overclock it and actually make it go really, really fast. Of course, that recoil would be brutal. Speaking of brutal, this thing would have insane damage. Insane damage. It would shred everything in front of it. They could make it an LMG, but with 20 round mags, that's not really. Even though it kind of was an LMG in World War I and II, but not really, because it worked like that, but it just very awkward with 20 round mags. And also, the bar is especially heavy. It's supposed to be a very heavy rifle, especially some of the versions. But you want that weight for recoil compensation, because apparently this thing kicks like a goddamn mule because it's full auto 30-06. Of course it would. Anyway, it would just be very, very fun to run around with a full auto Browning and just shred cops to pieces with deer hunting caliber full auto. As for stats with the slow rate of fire, it would have mediocre stability even with slow rate of fire. I don't think it'd be that stable, and I don't think it'd be that accurate, although mods can compensate for this, obviously. The damage would be the big selling point. This thing would hit like a motherfucking truck. Everything in front of you, including dozers, would get just obliterated by this thing. They die really quickly to the Garand in the game, but imagine a Garand that's full auto and probably has even more damage. That'd be the BAR, and it would be fucking badass. It might have the highest damage of all the assault rifles, and starting to approach some other classes of weapons. Maybe not some snipers, but it would definitely be up there. So we are yet still sticking to World War II, but we are going to jump the gun over to Germany. So where is the STG-44? The Sturmgewehr, aka the Storm Rifle. So this was essentially one of the first assault rifles. Not technically, because the Russians did have one in 1919, if I remember correctly, 1921. But ignoring that, what makes it an assault rifle is it fired an intermediate cartridge. That is the biggest that is the distinction between an assault rifle and a battle rifle. A battle rifle fires full-blown rifle rounds, and an assault rifle fires an intermediate cartridge. An AK is an assault rifle because it fires an intermediate cartridge. So there's that. Same thing with the M4 and the AR-15 and all that. So the Sturmgewehr wasn't really in World War II for that long, because it basically appeared at basically the end of the war. But it would just be really cool to have this kind of a German classic in the game. I mean, Killing Floor 2 has it, and I'm jealous because it's really fun in Killing Floor 2. Slow rate of fire, deep noise, really fun, very powerful. And I would assume it'd be the same in Payday 2. The only thing is, what would the stats be? I would say it would have basically average stats with maybe slightly high damage. It does fire a intermediate cartridge, and I think, don't quote me on this because I haven't looked it up, although I should probably look it up right before I say anything. Okay, so the STG fired the 7.92 by 33 millimeter Kurtz round. So, if I'm saying Kurtz right, that's still an intermediate cartridge. It's essentially an 8 millimeter Mauser, just with a less powder behind it because a smaller cartridge. Anyway, so that being said, the STG would be really fun. It would be a really cool rifle to have. You might be thinking, wait a minute, it's so old, you can't really put optics on it. You can put optics on a Garand and a Mosin in Payday 2 already, so I don't think that matters, really. So that basically does it for the World War II weapons. Because the others, yeah, it'd be cool to have the Gewehr 43, the certain anti-material rifles would be ridiculous, like the Boys anti-tank rifle, or the Russian equivalent, which was even bigger. But I think that's, yeah, it's ridiculous. The game is ridiculous, but carrying around a full-blown anti-tank rifle, not technically anti-tank to a certain point because the armor got so thick that the bullets couldn't penetrate it anymore, would be, carrying that around would be kind of ridiculous, especially because some of these rifles weigh up to 50 pounds. But, I don't think a heister would want to pick that up, even though they can carry like 400 or 500 pounds. Anyway, these are just some rifles from World War II, some weapons for World War II, because one of them is a submachine gun, that would be excellent to have in Payday 2. They'd be a lot of fun. They would be really damn cool, and it'd be great. Now, there's another stat that I didn't mention with these rifles, these weapons. What would the ammo economy be like? I would assume the ammo economy would be okay. I would assume that maybe all of them would have very standard ammo economy, so you would have ammo. It's not like you'll be running out of ammo every 5 seconds. Anyway, what other weapons could be added into Payday 2? Well, there are so damn many that I really can't name them all, but yeah, it's just, I'm seriously surprised that we don't at least have the BAR or STG-44, because those two weapons are just iconic when it comes to World War II. The BAR was America's quote-unquote assault rifle. Not really. Speaking of World War II, going to the Russian side, they have a lot of other weapons that I didn't talk about, like the PPS-43 or the PPSH, or the PPSH, the Papa Shah. Again, there's just so many other guns that could be in the game, but these are my wish list. These are my World War II gun wish list. As for modern firearms that aren't in the game, I can't really think of any off the top of my head. Maybe another AK would be kind of cool. Maybe like an AK-12 with a higher rate of fire would be really, really fun. And actually has built-in Picatinny rails. And the AK-12 does not fire the 7.62 by 39. It fires the 5.45 cartridge. So it's smaller than the 5.56, but it's basically the Russian equivalent. And it's still an AK. AKs are cool. Speaking of Russian weapons, the SKS, the stripper clip AK thing. Anyway, before I go on a really, really large tangent, even though this video is a bit long for this, I think, these are just some of the guns from World War II that I would really love in the game. And I just want to say it, I want Payday 2's DLCs to be fucking free. I know they can't do that, but they can monetize the games in other ways, just like fucking cosmetics or whatever. It's just, like, I want all the DLCs for Payday 2 because I play it all the damn time. It's just, I can't. Because I think I have like $100 some left of DLCs to get or something. Probably more. But I know I'm not alone that I want to play Payday 2 using a BAR to fight the FBI. I know I'm not alone doing that. or the grease gun. BAR primary, grease gun secondary. That sounds awesome. Good old fashioned World War II America firearms. Maybe an STG-44 with the grease gun. Why not? I can't believe the STG's not in the game. Same thing with the bar. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. I might do more videos like this of certain wish lists that I would like for Payday 2. Maybe some next time I'll go over some more modern firearms that aren't in the game that I would like. So, thank you guys so much for watching. And remember, in Trilby, we trust.